Welcome to the new Nehemiah Wealth Building Agenda for Spiritual Multiplicity-preneurs. This is a mini course preview, and this will be our first session on this particular mini course. I am the spiritual multiplicity-preneur and new era empire developer, most known as AliNICOLE. Wow, she does it all. And I am joined by the Multiplicity Moundbuilder, Joseph L. Jones Jr. We are the creators of the Multiplicity Monument Empires, which features several platforms to help prepare different levels of multiplicity entrepreneurs. We are also the creators of the Multiplicity Marketplace Media Tours, which is part of the New Era Marketplace Trajectories. We have co-authored works together that are available on Amazon, and two of those works are the Conscious Multiplicity Branding Factor for New Era Entrepreneurs. It is a basic introduction to multifaceted branding for next level business success. It is an action planner. And also we have co-authored Brand Building with Multiplicity Entrepreneurship Made Easy, How to Create Multiple Streams of Revenue with Multifaceted Branding, and it too is an action planner. Today, we will be sharing a preview of a forthcoming mini course that is called the new Nehemiah Wealth Building Agenda for Spiritual Multiplicity-preneurs. And, you know, what we learn in the book of Nehemiah is about rebuilding the wall and sort of setting up this new way of living, servitude, you know, and more. But this new Nehemiah agenda is really about focusing on building anew. And so I want to speak a little bit about that after bringing Joseph in, and then we can start talking more about this mini course. So Joseph, so glad to have you present with me. Always excited about the work that we are doing and what we bring to the marketplace.
Always excited to be here and to be involved, and definitely looking forward to this subject matter on this Nehemiah rebuilding.
Well, the interesting thing is with this particular aspect is we are going to be focusing on building anew. And the reason why this is very important, it lends a shift because within the story of the book of Nehemiah, so to speak, you know, there's been the core focus on the rebuilding of the wall. So let me talk about this in terms of what that means for today and how actually the rebuilding vibration has kind of counteracted the evolutionary expansion. So the rebuilding vibration over the years has really continued to create more of the same in this sort of new and improved format and functionality. But what we need in the marketplace is a new creation. And that's something, you know, Joseph, you and I, our works have been about building and expanding the new. And yes, there are some elements within the newer building of the structures that do seem to have some of the rebuilding or reset, reformatting, re-engineering, you know, aspects of it, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the second preview session. But with what needs to be happening now is a new creation and a new agenda and a new order. And that's why under this Nehemiah, it is the new Nehemiah building. So in this new vibration of Nehemiah, it's not so much focused on the older aspects of the rebuilding. So this new creation, this means that there are going to be new tools and new methods for evolution and expansion, with also new models that start to create this new trajectory, so to speak, of wealth success frameworks. And that's what we, you know, want to have during this time, because this lays a new foundation for new success structures to be built upon. Because Joseph, what has been happening in the rebuilding vibration over the years, it sort of has hindered the metamorphosis factor for metaphorically transitioning the marketplace from a caterpillar status to a butterfly status. So the rebuilding concepts have been expanding, of course, and growing frameworks, but more so into bigger caterpillars and not really allowing the breakdowns in systems and structures to come unformed in order to reform into a new entity of expression, which would be metaphorically again a butterfly. The butterfly represents a new creation, and we know that within scripture it talks about, that the new man, the new creation, and it's having to become something that it has not been. And so going back to the metamorphosis aspect as it relates to the butterfly is that, yeah, we need to transition more into becoming a new expression, something completely different than to keep creating these bigger, more advanced, caterpillars. And again, this is the work you and I have been doing, because this metaphorically speaks to the entrepreneurship. So the
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship has been continuously, just like different elements of business and corporations in the marketplace, continuing to grow and expand and evolve as these bigger caterpillars. Like I mentioned, it's kind of a new and improved versus a new creation. So the work that you and I do that sort of creates this multiplicity metamorphosis, which actually is another mini course in the works that also helps entrepreneurs really make that shift, so to speak, from the, if we want to call it the caterpillarpreneurs, into these spiritual multiplicity-preneurs, so that they can start to launch from these business and branding cocoons and start soaring like a butterfly, really, Joseph, within these unique divine expressions, in the marketplace. So, as you know, the multiplicity factor, it isn't new to you and I. However, it is a newer concept to the marketplace, and it's time for that concept to overtake as the new normal. I will, on that note, I will actually also include in the description box a link to a masterclass training that Joseph and I did on multiplicity entrepreneurship, the new normal. So you would greatly, greatly benefit from that particular masterclass. But Joseph, before I start sharing, there's three core areas that I really want to cover in terms of starting to build a new temple of what would look like a spiritually aligned entrepreneur, and starting to leverage these new Nehemiah principles. So before I get into that, would you like to share anything, just even based off of what has been said so far?
Well, my sharing would be basically building on what you were just speaking about in terms of these old structures and the rebuilding on the same foundation to try and create something new, which doesn't really work well in this new energetic vibration.
Right.
It requires a new foundation and a new building,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
going to create actually a completely new marketplace.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
that's what we're looking at in terms of
Hmm.
this Nehemiah Agenda
Yes.
2021.
That's it, right? And that's why it has to be the new Nehemiah agenda, because it is building these structures for the newer expansion. And all of this has to do with holistic wealth. So let me share the three core aspects that are within the mini course that we're bringing forth. And this is just a phase or a section, so to speak, that's in the mini course. And in the second preview, of course, we'll share more about the other concepts. But um, three core areas of focus for building a new temple of a spiritually aligned entrepreneur. And again, this is about leveraging the new Nehemiah wealth building vibrations. So we want to first focus on the building of the new self agenda, right? So this is about the self and the soul care mastery for higher spiritual evolution. That has to be definitely the first foundational premise that you have to start building, because as we know, Joseph, there has been over the years so much focus on leveling up and skilling up in different areas, and man has not really worked on himself in the right way. And even though there's been the self help and all these personal developmental things, but it hasn't been where people can really tap into their unique individuality. They're just kind of given a framework and a structure to say, this is what makes you the best you. And it's time to find out what is unique to you, because that is what's going to help ultimately to bring forth the new creation of the self and the soul for these higher levels of mastery and spiritual evolution, and how we present ourselves in the marketplace with this new creation dynamics of ourselves. The second area is about building, the building of the new health agenda. And so when we're building of the new health agenda, this is encompasses holistically, of course, and also the physical, the mental, and the financial wellness aspect, as well. So these are really key foundational premises that have to be laid in terms of the continuation of the building and expansion. It has to be from this new vibration. The third area is about building of the new wealth agenda. So this is about the higher success structures for total well-being, but also creating this wealth habitation. So it is about wealth habitation, creation. And I'm going to share an example kind of, of that in just a little bit. But once these core areas have a new solid foundation, then Joseph, as you know, then we can start to build a new entrepreneurship multiplicity. And with those building concepts, we can, start there. And with yours, obviously, with the mound building multiplicity aspects, we can start there once these other foundational premises have been laid. As I mentioned, the second preview session that we'll do, it's going to cover more on the multiplicity building factors of the mini course. And also, I do have a few resources that Joseph and I have done individually that can support you in these areas as you are awaiting this mini course. So again, these three were very important. And I do want to actually share, I'm going to grab the scriptures real quick, some Bible references for helping others to better understand where we've been and where we're headed. So Joseph, before I jump into sharing a little bit more about this, is there anything that you want to say around, those three core areas? Because of course, in the mini course, you'll be having your parts in there that you're going to speak about, as well.
Well, I just want to say that each one of those core areas are extremely important, and ever so more important right now in the time in which we live, because a lot of our challenges that we've been having really center around those three areas. And it's interesting that you highlight those. And particular emphasis on the health. And the reason why is because health is so extremely important. The health of our physical body, the health of our
wealth,
spiritual
right?
body. It's certainly our wealth. The health of our wealth is very, very important. So, but all of those core areas really speak to areas that we need to look at and begin to really adjust, because times are changing and shifting, and we want to be positioned so that we can benefit from that change.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it has to come under, like I said, this new frequency, because a lot of times people have done things and then they start to restart, they put it down, and it's like, no, you got to lay a new foundation. You have to start in this new vibration.
Right.
And where we are right now, sort of where we've been, it's all been in, as I mentioned before, this kind of energy, the rebuilding, and again, that concept and that vibration still has its place, But what we'll find is that we've got to get more into the new order of the expansion first, and then it will show us where some other things that are in place that did not fully break down in the metamorphosis. It will show us then, okay, here's what you can rebuild here. An example real quick before I start actually sharing kind of, some Bible references around this is when you think about a new home that's being constructed. So that is a new, and that's going to produce a new experience. So if you had your energy and you were more focused in the new that is emerging that you're going to be shifting into. But let's just say that the older structure where you are isn't necessarily something that's breaking down to the point where you can't still participate in that, but you know that it's time for something new. And maybe you're not getting rid of the old home, and you're going to have to do some repairs and some different things to to fix it up, so to speak, even if you're planning to rent it out or whatever, whatnot. Because if you're renting it out, it still be a part of your experience. But even if it's one that you're going to keep, but it isn't supporting the new growth of where you are headed, but you don't necessarily feel that that's gone completely, then again, what would happen is that the energy needs to be focused more on the newer that's expanding and building that up. And then as you are tapping more into the new just through your activities, then it will show you in the place where you are what you need to be doing to level that up as you are leaving and transitioning. So that will be what will need to be rebuilt, what will need to be reset, what will need to have some reordering, or so. But yeah, so I can talk about that kind of all day. But so what I want to share now is what came up to me, and this is actually something that is talked about within the mini course. Is so if we know the story of Haggai, the book, so to speak, and within the first chapter, it talked about how people were dwelling, in their paneled homes, so to speak, and basically that is the mundane of the activity, just on autopilot, just in life. So there is a verse where I have it here. Okay, so going to kind of jump around in this, but I talked about the dwelling in the paneled home, and that is actually found in verse 4 of the first chapter. It talks about, is it time for you yourselves to be living in your paneled houses while this house remains a ruin? And basically, I'll reiterate this later, where the spiritual multiplicity-preneurship is really the new house that has been emerging, and the old activity that people keep trying to level up and make new and improve, or they're just more distracted with being in the what is and thinking that it's the end all and be all for the moment. They are not really focusing on the higher context. And so what happens is that in traditional Christianity languaging, we say that the work of the Lord is not being done. And basically that's what this meant. So in verses 6 through 9, I'm going to read where it says, consider your ways. You have sown much, but harvest little. You eat, but there is not enough to be satisfied. You drink, but there is not enough to become drunk. You put on clothing, but no one is warm enough. And he who earns wages to put into a purse with holes. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, consider your ways. Go up to the mountains, bring wood, and rebuild. But in this new vibration, we're just going to talk about and build the temple, that I may be pleased with it and be glorified, says the Lord. Verse 9, you look for much, but behold, it comes to little. When you bring it home, I blow it away. Why? Declares the Lord of hosts, because my house which lies desolate, while each of you runs his own house. The new house, as I mentioned, is the spiritual multiplicity factor. This is what allows entrepreneurs, because we're addressing entrepreneurs, to do what we teach, Joseph, is diversify, multiply, and maximize and monetize their entrepreneurship. See, what happens is when you're in these old ways, and that's why the scripture says about consider your ways. So what it's saying is that as you are moving forward in innovation, you have got to consider your ways, because you're still building and rebuilding in old formats, thinking that you're leveling up and you're expanding. But as we look and see that it is not really taking the greater good of the whole to the next level. And that's why no matter when people are efforting and they're out here hustling and they're doing all these different things, yeah, it's bringing something, but it's really not enough to satisfy. It's getting the job done, so to speak, but it's not creating the expansion where people can go into the next. So it seems like what they're bringing, and though they're bringing, is going into a purse with holes because they're earning, but not really being able to, expand. And again, not saying this is happening to everyone, but the marketplace, the new era marketplace, is all about creating the win-win for the service provider and the consumer. So when we're putting our efforts towards certain things, not understanding that you're still in a certain vibration, that's why you can continue to do and nothing really happens. And even as it was talking about, you look for much, you've planted, you've done all these things, you're looking for these harvests, but the reason why they are not springing up, or the little that does, is because you are not actually focused in the new direction. You have not actually gone up to the mountain, so to speak. The mountain is to come up higher. You have not come up higher, as Revelation 1:4 talks about, coming up higher so that you can get a higher perspective of what needs to be done. And that's why within this new Nehemiah building agenda, the wealth building, it has to be from this new vibration. Because again, where we've been is you planted much, but you harvest little. You eat, but it is never enough. You do all these things, but it's not amounting to giving you the greater expansion. It's only amounting to satisfying the now and then helping you feel like you're more ahead. And within the business world, that has to shift and change. And going back to what I said earlier about the metamorphosis, aspect is when you have not had the metamorphosis, that means you have not transitioned and transformed and evolved into the greater expansion. You're just leveling up in what you hear me teach and talk about in this container and this format that is still producing more of the same, but that's that new and improved, bigger, expansive caterpillar. So we're done with that. So another reference I want to share real quick is in 2 Kings 4, verses 1 through 7, where the story of Elijah and the widow's oil, that introduces us really to the multiplicity factor. Because when Elisha instructs the widow to go out and ask for several jars, he's telling her to do this so that she can start setting up a wealth habitation, which is going to be extremely important within this spiritual multiplicitypreneurship. And that's something we're going to talk more about in the second preview, of this. But setting up this wealth habitation so that the oil can always flow. Something that is interesting to me, within the context of that story, is that they're in different commentaries. It's like the widow kind of sensed a little bit like, oh wow, go out and I'm going to do what the prophet says, but wow, go out and get all of these jars, and the mind's already thinking like I may not be able to get enough. But Elisha basically was telling her, listen, when you go, don't just ask for only a few jars, because the more jars that you have, the more oil that you will be able to have. And see, if she didn't trust Elisha's words, and then she just went out and got 2 or 3 jars because she was asked to borrow, jars and everything, which today we're being asked to, set up ours in a different way. Just having a few, she would only be able to have just enough oil just for those few jars. And that still was just going to be barely enough to take care of, in the context of her, was the debt that, she had and everything else. But she needed more than that to pay that and to be able to live a more fuller life. And this is why Joseph, it is not enough just to have a few streams of income, because where we are and where we're headed, where things are going, is going to require that we have a storehouse, or storehouses, if you will, of greater abundance and more. We need to have this overflow. So this is where the spiritual multiplicitypreneurship really helps entrepreneurs, so to speak, to step into this new trajectory and start building anew with setting up the required wealth habitation. So, yeah, so it's not enough just to do what we've been doing, because, again, all these efforts only to put it in a purse with holes, only to not have enough just to be making it, but not being able to expand. So it's going to be very important that the multiplicity and the multiplication comes in, so that we set these jars up and set the different levels up within the entrepreneurial structure, so that the oil can continue to flow into the overflow, and take care. So there's a whole lot, obviously, around this, but I do want to say real quick, Joseph, before I bring you forth, again, is that we have a series of trainings in a playlist, and this will help individuals who are interested in stepping into this dynamics of the multiplicity entrepreneurship. We're going to be teaching more on the spiritual foundations, even though it all is in the spiritual context, not a religious context, but it's more vibrational. But we have something that can help to start this journey. So there's going to be some links in the description of the playlist, and you'll be able to benefit from that. So before I start sharing some resources that can help everyone sort of level up and build on those three core areas that were covered today, Joseph would just love to hear anything that you have to share.
Well, I just want to say that that was absolutely brilliantly articulated. And it
Oh,
really
thank you.
speaks, yes, indeed. It really speaks to where we have been as business owners. What we have been doing has not really been enough up to the point that we are now. Where we are
Right,
going, it is definitely not going to be enough. So not
right.
only does more need to be done, the old blueprint needs to completely be scrapped. And we
Exactly.
need to start new and
Yes,
to build the new and
yes,
build from a new vibratory point and vibratory vibration
yes,
and
yes.
foundation, so that
Mm-hmm.
we can establish what is required in this new time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What makes me even more excited about that, too, even as it relates to the mound building energy that you bring forth, is because it is in the new era vibration. And so it is bringing forth the newer context of today's mound builder, and what is going to be required with these new foundational premises to set up for this holistic expansion. And that's why the three core areas of building the new self and the new health and the new wealth agendas are so paramount, right? And they have to be the foundational premise for which entrepreneurs start to um, spring forth from, and build, upon those three pillars. And so again, the new Nehemiah wealth building agenda is all about the holistic premise. So a few resources to help others get started is Joseph has Maximize Your 365. It's an inspirational, informational daily life journal. And within this journal, it's comprehensive. It's more of a curriculum, so to speak, but that really speaks to the whole of building the self, and certainly the health, and just a new life structure, so to speak. And the principles within there and everything that is taught really helps to activate this higher vibrational vantage point, so that the self and the life structures of getting people into a practice of learning themselves anew, and even being able to look at things that they've known anew. Um, and that just helps in leveling up. But there's wellness within there. It really is just a holistic curriculum, is what I call it. And so you definitely want to make sure that you have that so you're able to maximize, which is one of the multiplicity premises as well, is being able to leverage that vibration of maximization. A resource that I have is called A Fresh New Start with God. It is an inspirational journal for rediscovering your true connection to source power and life purpose. Also, another resource that I have is called The New Dimensional Wealth Factor. It is the basics of understanding new era financial individuality and independence, and it is a journal planner. The reason why we write primarily in these formats is because we don't necessarily want people so much inundated with all that has been, so to speak, but we want them to be able to bring out the newer expansion and the newer innovations so that they can start to build anew with what has uniquely come from them versus a template of saying this is how you have to do it. You'll find your own way. And even within Joseph's publication, that does have quite a bit of information, so to speak, but it's, as he says, inspirational. That's inspired and information, coming forth, and it is helping you to be divinely inspired by the information to be able to leverage it accordingly, to you. Another resource that I have is the Wealthy Pentecost Factor. It is powerfully positioned and accurately aligned for wealth success. And again, that is a journal planner. And then another one that I have is called the Multiplicity-preneurs Revenue Factor Made Easy. It is the basics of repositioning your empire for revenue recognition as a multiplicity entrepreneur, and it is a journal planner. I also mentioned two resources, which I'll talk more about in the second session that we do for the preview, but the two resources that I mentioned earlier by Joseph and I, and all of these are on Amazon. So it's time to build anew. This is not rebuilding at this point. You will get to a point where you will come back to doing some rebuilding in a sense, but we really need to focus on the new structures. The Multiplicity Monument Empires is on Tumblr, so definitely be able to, follow us there. We're certainly looking forward to bringing more to you with this mini course. Just have so much that's in store. So Joseph, before I close out, do you have any last closing words, anything that you want to share, even say in reference to your publication or just anything around what we talked about today?
Well, the publication Maximize Your 365 certainly speaks to building anew and establishing a new way of living based on a daily process.
Yes.
So every day you have a foundation from which to build. I'm excited about this Nehemiah wealth building process, this new design, and excited about what we will be sharing coming forth about this, because right now that is not a agenda, it is the only agenda.
Yes.
If we intend to be successful in this new wave of energy and going forward and establishing ourselves in the best possible way, positioning ourselves to be productive and successful in whatever
Absolutely.
endeavors we seek to pursue.
Yes.
So definitely take advantage of this time and this wealth of wisdom that AliNICOLE is bringing forth.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I couldn't agree more with you that this is the only agenda. And until people see that it may seem like there's a plethora of options, but you really need to focus as if there are no other options because the other ones are not leading to the greater expansion. They're just leading to more of the same. And we're in a point now is no more caterpillar agenda. It is now the metamorphosis, and some people have already been in that, and now it's time to show them where they already have the evolution, and now let's take it into this launching into this expansiveness, into a new creation, a completely new entity, which is going to give you the wisdom and the insights on how to build anew. So you can't build anew if you don't have a new mind and a new mental premise to start building from. We can only be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And within that renewing, we're actually getting a new mind to build with. And so that's what this new Nehemiah wealth building agenda is going to produce for spiritual multiplicity entrepreneurs, because it is time to show up in that multiplicity format. You have so many gifts and different things to offer, and it's time to unleash those into the world. You can no longer allow your potential to be unexpressed, because this very era and time demands your divinity to come forth. And if you're not here to show up in that full expression, you're going to see that you will collapse with the rest of what is going out. And that doesn't have to be. And that is why we are here, so that you start to build anew and not redo what has been. Even if it was good, you don't want that variation anymore. You want the new creation. There's the new heaven and the new earth. You want to be in that expansion. So you want to be in the new marketplace vibration, the new entrepreneurial expansion and expression, so that you can play full out in the truth of who you are and why you came here, why your work is so important in this time. All right, well, Joseph, thank you so much for being here with me. Of course, is the work that we do, and we're extremely excited to bring forth a new vibration of Nehemiah and the building agenda and the mound building principles, during this time. So everyone, re-listen to this, and also what is going to be provided within the description. Definitely consider the resources that were shared, today, to help you prime the pump and get on your way, jumpstart your success, and then you can be more prepared for this mini course that we are going to bring forth. So stay blessed.